What if I told you there is a plant that can produce 10 to 15 times more protein per acre than soybeans? A plant that contains every single essential amino acid our bodies need, making it a perfect source of protein. A plant that doubles its own weight every 2 days, growing so fast it makes bamboo look lazy. A plant that doesn't need soil, doesn't need fertilizer, and can be grown on wastewater, cleaning the water as it grows. You would think a plant like this would be hailed as a miracle, a solution to world hunger, the future of food. But you would be wrong. For most of modern history, this plant has been ignored, dismissed, and actively fought. It is called a pest, a nuisance, an invasive species. Companies spend millions of dollars every year developing new ways to kill it. So the question is, why? Why would the world's most productive protein source be classified as a problem? My name is Marcus, and as a botanist who has spent a lifetime studying the relationship between people and plants, I have learned that our definition of a weed is often a reflection of our own ignorance. We call a plant a weed when we fail to understand its purpose. Today, we are going to talk about a plant that is perhaps the greatest example of this. It is a plant you have almost certainly seen. A vibrant green blanket covering the surface of a quiet pond or a slow-moving stream. It is so common, so ubiquitous, that most of us have never given it a second thought. But this humble, overlooked plant may hold the key to a truly sustainable future. A future where we can produce high-quality protein for a growing global population without destroying the planet. This is the story of duckweed. Our story begins in the ancient world. Duckweed is not some new discovery. It has been with us for millennia. The name we use for its scientific family, Lemnaceae, was coined by the Greek philosopher Theophrastus, the father of botany, over 2,300 years ago. In his monumental work, Inquiry into Plants, written around 300 BCE, he classified it as a water plant and gave it the name Lemna, which eventually became the basis for the entire family name. But Theophrastus was not the only ancient scholar to take note of this plant. A comprehensive study published in the journal Plants in 2022 examined the history of duckweed across multiple ancient civilizations and found references to it in Chinese, Greek, Hebrew, Hindu, Japanese, Maya, Muslim, and Roman cultures. This tiny plant was recognized and used by people on nearly every continent, thousands of years ago. For countless generations, in parts of Southeast Asia, particularly in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Myanmar, duckweed has been a traditional part of the human diet. It is not seen as a pest, but as a vegetable, a source of nutrition that has sustained communities for generations. The smallest species, belonging to the genus Wolffia, are still used in traditional Thai cuisine today, often added to soups and omelets. This is a food with a deep and ancient history, a history that has been almost entirely forgotten by the Western world. So what is duckweed? It is a family of tiny, floating aquatic plants, the smallest flowering plants on Earth. The family is divided into 5 genera: Spirodela, Lemna, Landoltia, Wolffia, and Wolffiella, and contains 36 different species. They are incredibly simple organisms, just a tiny leaf, or frond, that floats on the water with a single hair-like root dangling beneath. Some species, like those in the Wolffia genus, are so small they are barely visible to the naked eye, measuring less than a millimeter across. They reproduce mainly by budding, creating new daughter fronds from small pockets on the mother plant, and they do this at an astonishing rate. Under optimal conditions, which means calm, nutrient-rich water, a population of duckweed can double its biomass every 16 to 48 hours. According to a fact sheet published by the United States Department of Agriculture, duckweed may double its body mass in less than 48 hours under optimal conditions. To put that in perspective, if you started with a single tiny duckweed plant, Smaller than the head of a pin, you could theoretically cover an area the size of the Earth in just a few months. It is this incredible speed of growth that makes it both a miracle and a menace. Let's talk about why it is a miracle. The modern world is obsessed with protein, and for the last half-century, one plant has dominated the global protein conversation: the soybean. Soy is the undisputed king of plant-based protein production. It is grown on over 120 million hectares of land worldwide. It is the foundation of the global animal feed industry and an increasingly important part of the human diet. But soy has a dark side. Its cultivation is a major driver of deforestation, particularly in the Amazon rainforest and the Cerrado, savanna of Brazil. It requires vast amounts of land, water, and chemical inputs in the form of fertilizers and pesticides. We are clearing ancient forests and grasslands to grow a single crop, and it is a path that is simply not sustainable. This is where duckweed enters the picture, and the numbers are staggering. Let's compare them head to head. In Europe, a hectare of land dedicated to soybean cultivation will produce on average between 0.6 and 1.2 tons of protein per year. That is the benchmark. Now, consider duckweed. According to multiple studies, including research highlighted by Wageningen University in the Netherlands and published in the journal ACS Food Science and Technology, a hectare of water covered in duckweed can produce between 10 and 18 tons of protein per year. That is not a typo. It is, at a conservative estimate, 10 times more protein per unit of area than soy. Wageningen University has stated that duckweed is 6 times more efficient than soy due to its very high protein content. Some estimates for dry matter yield go as high as 80 or even 100 tons per hectare per year. It is, without exaggeration, the most productive protein-producing plant on the planet. And it does this without using a single square foot of arable land. It can be grown on ponds, in tanks, or even on wastewater from farms or municipalities. And as it grows, it cleans the water, absorbing excess nitrogen and phosphorus that would otherwise become pollutants. It is a system that turns waste into one of the most valuable nutrients on Earth, and the quality of that protein is extraordinary. For a plant protein to be useful to the human body, it needs to be complete, meaning it must contain all 9 of the essential amino acids that our bodies cannot produce on their own. Soy is famous for being a complete protein, which is why it has become so dominant. But duckweed is also a complete protein. Research on Wolfia globosa, one of the most studied species for human consumption, has shown that essential amino acids make up around 52% of its total amino acid content, and it is particularly rich in lysine and tryptophan, 2 amino acids that are often lacking in other plant-based foods like grains. On a dry matter basis, duckweed can contain up to 45% protein. This is not just animal feed. This is a superfood for humans, a source of protein that rivals eggs and milk in its quality. Researchers in Guatemala found it to be one of the most nutritious plant-based proteins available, and studies have shown that its protein composition is remarkably similar to that of soybeans. So, if duckweed is this miracle plant, this protein-producing powerhouse that is 10 times more efficient than soy, why aren't we all eating it? Why isn't it the foundation of our food system? The answer is a story of perception, of industrial path dependency, and of a system that is resistant to change. The very same trait that makes duckweed so productive, its incredible growth rate, is also what makes it a problem. For anyone managing a pond, a lake, or a slow-moving waterway, duckweed can be a nightmare. Because it grows so fast, it can quickly cover the entire surface of the water, forming a thick green mat. This mat blocks sunlight from reaching other aquatic plants below, killing them off. As the duckweed itself dies and decomposes, the process consumes large amounts of oxygen in the water, which can lead to fish kills. It is seen as an invasive, noxious weed. In Europe, one species, Lemna minuta, has been officially classified as an invasive alien species. Pond management companies sell a wide array of chemical herbicides designed specifically to kill it. Homeowners and golf course managers spend countless hours and dollars trying to eradicate it. We have defined it as a problem because it gets in the way of our aesthetic and recreational uses of water. We see a green pond and we think it is dirty, choked, unhealthy. We don't see a floating pasture of high-quality protein. We see a mess that needs to be cleaned up. This perception has created a powerful inertia. Our entire agricultural system is built around land, soil, and terrestrial crops. We have spent a century perfecting the machinery, the supply chains, and the business models for growing things like corn and soy. The entire seed industry, worth tens of billions of dollars a year, is based on selling seeds for plants that grow in the ground. The multi-billion-dollar herbicide industry is designed to kill anything that competes with those terrestrial crops. Duckweed simply does not fit into this system. It is an aquatic crop. It doesn't have seeds that you can package and sell in the same way. It reproduces vegetatively. It doesn't require tractors or combines. It represents a completely different way of thinking about agriculture, a way that is decentralized, localized, and integrated with water management. And for the established players in the food industry, that is not a welcome disruption. It is far easier and more profitable to continue with the system we already have, even if it means clearing another 1,000,000 acres of rainforest for soy plantations. But the tide is beginning to turn, driven by a new generation of scientists and entrepreneurs who are looking at duckweed and seeing not a problem, but a profound solution. Companies like Plantable Foods are developing technologies to extract the protein from duckweed on a commercial scale. They have focused on a specific protein called rubisco, which is the most abundant protein on Earth, found in the leaves of all plants. It is the enzyme responsible for capturing carbon dioxide during photosynthesis, the very foundation of life on Earth. The first prototypes of the famous Impossible Burger were actually made with rubisco. By extracting and purifying this protein, they can create a neutral-tasting, highly functional ingredient that can be used in everything from plant-based meats to dairy-free yogurts and egg replacements. Researchers at Université Laval in Canada have developed innovative protocols to extract the protein with incredible efficiency, capturing up to 60% of the protein from the plant, a massive improvement over older methods that lost 75 to 95% of the protein in the extraction process. They are discovering that duckweed contains other beneficial compounds as well, including bioactive peptides that may help reduce high blood pressure. I remember the moment my own perception of this plant shifted. I was visiting a sustainable aquaculture project in Southeast Asia. The farm was raising tilapia in large open-air ponds. The water in the ponds was a vibrant, almost electric green. My first thought, conditioned by years of Western thinking, was that the ponds were polluted, eutrophic, out of balance. But the farmer explained that the green blanket on the water was their most valuable asset. It was duckweed. He told me they didn't feed their fish expensive, imported soy-based pellets. They fed them the duckweed. The fish thrived on it. Studies have confirmed this, showing that duckweed can replace a significant portion of soybean meal in the diets of fish like tilapia without any negative effects on growth. The duckweed, in turn, thrived on the waste produced by the fish, cleaning the water in a perfect, closed-loop system. He scooped up a handful of the tiny green plants from the water. "This is food," he said simply. "It feeds the fish feed us, and it cleans the water. Why would I call it a problem? It is the solution." In that moment, I realized that I had been looking at ponds my entire life without ever truly seeing what was there. I had seen a weed. He saw a self-renewing, high-protein crop. So, how can we reclaim this lost knowledge? For most of us, the idea of harvesting duckweed from a local pond and eating it is not advisable. Wild duckweed can absorb heavy metals and other pollutants from the water, so it is crucial to know the water source is clean. But we can support the companies and researchers who are working to bring clean, sustainably farmed duckweed into the food system. And we can start to change our own perception. We can learn to see a green pond not as a problem to be solved with chemicals, but as a sign of incredible biological productivity, a potential source of food. For those with a bit of space and a spirit of adventure, it is even possible to grow your own. A small tub or a backyard pond filled with clean water and a starter culture of duckweed can become a personal protein factory. You can harvest it multiple times per week. It can be used as a high-protein supplement for backyard chickens, ducks, or even fish in an aquaponics system. It is a small but powerful way to step outside of the industrial food system and participate in a cycle of true abundance. There is a deeper lesson here, one that goes beyond just this one plant. Throughout my career, I have noticed a pattern. The plants that are most useful to individual people, the plants that allow for self-sufficiency and independence, are often the ones that are most aggressively marginalized by our industrial systems. A plant that you can grow yourself, that requires no purchased seeds, no fertilizers, no pesticides, and no specialized equipment, is a plant that generates no profit for the agricultural industry. A plant that can be grown on the waste products of our society is a plant that threatens the very business model of modern farming. Duckweed is perhaps the most extreme example of this. It is so productive, so easy to grow, and so nutritionally complete that it represents a fundamental challenge to the way we think about food production. And so it is called a weed. It is called a problem. It is something to be eradicated, not cultivated. Have you ever looked at a pond covered in that bright green carpet and wondered what it was? Have you ever spent money on chemicals to get rid of it, without ever considering that you were destroying a food source more productive than anything in your garden? Perhaps you live in Southeast Asia and have eaten it your whole life without knowing its incredible story. I would be fascinated to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. This is a conversation that is just beginning, a reevaluation of a plant that we have misunderstood for far too long. The irony is not lost on me. We live in a world that is increasingly worried about protein. We are told that we need to find new sources of protein to feed a growing population. We are told that plant-based proteins are the future, and yet here is a plant that has been producing more protein per acre than any other crop on Earth for millions of years, and we have spent the last century trying to kill it. We have poured chemicals into our ponds and lakes to eradicate it. We have designed entire industries around its destruction. Meanwhile, in quiet corners of Southeast Asia, farmers have been using it to feed their families and their animals for generations, just as their ancestors did thousands of years ago. They never forgot. They understood something that we, in our pursuit of industrial efficiency, have lost. We are the ones who need to remember. The next time you see duckweed, I want you to remember what it represents. It represents a different path, a different way of thinking about food. It challenges the very idea of what a farm is. A farm doesn't have to be 1,000 acres of plowed soil. It can be a pond. It can be a tank. It can be an integrated part of our water treatment systems. Soybeans are not the problem. They are a remarkable plant that has fed billions. The problem is the industrial monoculture system that we have built around them, a system that demands ever-increasing inputs of land, water, and chemicals. Duckweed offers us a glimpse of a different kind of system, one that is based on intensity, not extensity. A system that works with natural cycles, not against them. A system that turns a problem, like nutrient-rich wastewater, into a solution. The future of food may not be in the soil beneath our feet, but in the water that covers our planet. And it may be led by the smallest, fastest, and most overlooked plant in the world. A plant that was never truly lost, only ignored. A plant that has been waiting, patiently, on the surface of our waters, for us to finally see it for what it truly is. Not a problem, a solution. The future of protein is floating right in front of us, waiting to be harvested.